come out today. 0.8 is the best quarter in 2 years, and it's a reflection of how New Zealanders have hunkered down actually for a long time now, through COVID, through a cost of living crisis. And finally, it feels like things are starting to turn the corner. I was talking to a locksmith at a cafe this morning. I said, how's it going? He said, we're just starting to get a few people bringing forward jobs that we weren't previously going to do. Now they want us back in their buildings installing security. I spoke to a civil engineer at lunchtime today, somebody who said, look, we're just starting to get a few inquiries from people who want us to start doing design work. I think that reflects that people have been through a long, hard winter. We're starting to see just the beginning of recovery, but of cautious optimism is warranted. But also, I believe one of the greatest dangers to this fragile economic recovery in a very difficult world globally is domestic politics where crazy things are proposed. When you see a Green Party say we could borrow up to $500 billion and pay an interest bill that would be greater than our education budget, that's when you know we have a real uncertainty about the political future, and why it is absolutely critical that this government and its plan to gradually manage down our spending, to leave more for everyone else, continues with some certainty. And so we, as our three parties in our coalition government, will be working hard to ensure that we don't only keep the government but continue to make it better. You will have seen that there are also sanctions on Russia today, these dark ships, certain individuals. New Zealand stands foursquare on the side of what is right against what is wrong, and for what is good against what is evil. There's never been any ambiguity in New Zealand's mind that we are opposed to this illegal invasion of Ukraine, and will continue to stand against Vladimir Putin and his government on the side of what is good. You will have also seen that there's been a move by the New Zealand government to be frank in our relationship with the government of Cook Islands. Yes, we are long-term friends and enjoy a close relationship of trust, but that trust has not been returned in recent times, especially in relation to the way an agreement with the PRC was entered, and for that the New Zealand government reserves the right to remind the government of the Cook Islands that trust is a two-way street. There may be other stories, and of course I'm happy to talk about anything, but those were just some of the issues today I thought were worth talking about.
Should we start with GDP?
Yeah.
Was that figure surprising to you?
It was higher than the forecasters had said, but also what I've sensed is New Zealand has been grinding it out for a long time, and I'm hearing more and more stories out on the street about little rays of sunshine and hope. So it's about where I hoped would be, and the real trick is to keep it going.
What do you put the rise to?
Well, clearly we've been helped by some of the commodity prices. We're being helped by the government's restraint leading to a fall in interest rates. All of that means that people have a bit more money in their pocket. When families have more to put food on the table and a little bit left over, that means they can spend more, and that means that employers can pay more. As soon as government gets out of the way, you have a virtuous circle.
I understand agriculture has also been one of the reasons for the increases. Can you touch on that? Is that something
Yeah, there's no question. You know, sometimes it's fashionable to beat up on farmers, but they're always there for New Zealanders earning export receipts so that we can afford the things we need. And it's particularly noticeable when you see a GDT with milk prices around $10, when you see the price of lamb and beef coming up globally. That has put a lot of pressure on New Zealanders when they go to the supermarket, because we pay those prices as well as farmers getting them, but on balance it's good for New Zealand.
I'll just pivot to the Cook Islands. Did Cabinet discuss the pausing of the funding to the Cook Islands ahead of Winston Peters actioning it early in June?
Well, I never go into what Cabinet discusses or doesn't discuss. I think it would be wrong for me to do that, but I can say, for the avoidance of any doubt, that our government travels together well, and we completely support the actions that the Foreign Minister's taken.
Why didn't the government make public they were pausing the funding at the time?
For the simple reason that this is a relationship which has been happening often in a very discreet way. We want to maintain our relationship and trust and connection with the government of the Cook Islands, but it doesn't always lend itself to playing poker with all your cards on the table.
How awkward is it that the story is broken on the eve of the Prime Minister meeting with the Chinese President?
Well, the reality is that this is a relationship which is multifaceted, both with Cook Islands and especially with China. There will always be concerns that I'm sure the Prime Minister intends to raise with President Xi. At the same time, we have a very strong relationship with the people of China. There are many people of Chinese origin who live here in New Zealand. I was visiting a Chinese business this morning. On the other hand, there are values differences that we are not going to shrink from raising. So, when this particular issue breaks, doesn't really change the fact that we're able to be good friends with China and friends who are not afraid to raise their differences.
But potentially, this situation could have been avoided had it been raised early and been a bit more transparent.
Well, there'll always be people that argue that timing could have been different, but at the end of the day, I don't see how it changes the substance of the relationship. All right.
Yeah, Mr. Seymour, Adam Hollingworth passes on his apologies, so I've got a couple of questions on his behalf. Are the GDP figures now out of date because they reflect the time before the global trade wars and current military conflicts?
Well, every GDP figure reported in New Zealand history has been through the rear-view mirror. However, they're the best data we have, and it shows that there is momentum in the New Zealand economy. We will face challenges now and in the future. Nonetheless, I'd much rather have these figures than negative figures, which New Zealanders have had to endure for a long time now.
Did ACT save the GDP figures too by pulling money from pay equity?
I think the ACT Party has made a very strong contribution to this government's fiscal restraint. Every time the government saves money, that means lower interest rates, less inflation and more for people to spend at the end of the day.
When did you become aware in your current role of the decision to pull funds for the Cook Islands?
I have regular briefings from the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet. I don't recall exactly which one, but certainly in the last few days.
And are we bending over backwards for the United States and not enough for China, as people like Helen Clark have suggested?
No, New Zealand is an independent country with independent foreign policy. We have to balance our relationships with different friends and different trading partners, and I think we're doing a very good job of doing that. Every small society in history has faced these kinds of challenges, and I think New Zealand actually manages the conflicts that we deal with very well. I think often New Zealand is actually an example for the entire world of being able to have different values and disagreements with people but remain friends.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to add based on the questions from my colleague and I?
No, very, very happy with that, except to say that we've had overwhelmingly positive feedback on melatonin coming to a pharmacy near you. Obviously, it's going to take some time for the melatonin manufacturers of the world to get their product on the shelves, but when it's there, there's going to be a lot of happy people having a good sleep.
So with regards to that melatonin, does that mean that it's, because it's currently on prescription, but you have to purchase, is that purchase point going to be waived now that it's going to be over the counter?
Well, you still have to pay for it unless Pharmac decides to fund a particular product. However, what's important is that you don't have to go and get a prescription. The reason there may be some delay in getting the supply is that just like with pseudoephedrine, because it was prescription only, not many people went through the rigmarole of getting it, and because not many people were buying it, not many suppliers brought it to New Zealand. Now that we've legalised it, we hope that the melatonin manufacturers of the world will stop selling it just to the rest of the world, sell it to us too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys, have a great day. Cheers.